Oh, Terrence is standing. We'll call this meeting order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The agenda, are there any additions or changes?
We had one change, and that was to remove item 10, the landfill semi-annual sampling report.
I'll move the amended agenda.
Is there support?
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved as amended. We need approval of the March 13th minutes.
So moved.
Is there support? Support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved as printed. We are up to limited public comments. You have 3 minutes. No limited public comments? We're moving right along. MSU Extension Semi-Annual Report. Good morning.
How are you? Well, it's a beautiful morning, which is a good thing. It's a good spring so far. Just some brief comments on this. I got to take off my glasses so I can see. So MSU itself has a tremendous impact on the county, and within that is MSU Extension. So I just wanted to point out that first number of the economic impact that's involved in the county from MSU itself. And I want to report that over 1,400 Eaton County residents participated in 435 different in-person or online programs. In addition, 459 4-H youth and 210 4-H volunteers participated in club activities and projects leading up to and including the 2023 Eaton County Fair. So what I do is when I look at our services, I want to make sure that we're covering all 4 institutes, which is agriculture and agribusiness, and I know I repeat myself on this a lot of times. And agriculture we're very familiar with in this county, but then also health and nutrition, children and youth, which involves 4-H, but then also community, food, and environment. So over the next several pages, just some samples, some sample pictures. The first page is really agriculture and agribusiness, some of the programs that were hosted. As you see there in the first section, like animal agriculture, for instance, that's 31 different programs in animal ag, farm business 9, consumer hort 21, and so on. What I want to point out there is and I did let Jim know that Roger Betts, after 40 years, has finally retired. Now, Roger is not going so easy. He's also doing some contract work because as in the springtime and some of those busiest times, helping farmers prepare for taxes and whatnot. So he's still doing some contract work for MSU Extension, but he did retire. In the ag area, again, Mike Staten is not housed here, but in fact, he's housed on the west side of the state, but spent quite a bit of time doing soybean research and he spoke at Williams a number of times and just a fantastic agriculture educator. And he's retiring very soon. In fact, there's a party for him in his district at the end of this month. So that's 2 big hits as far as agriculture educators. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that we've got a lot of new young folks that are coming in early in their careers, which is good, but we're losing some of these wise educators. So that's just something I point out. It's something we have to keep an eye on. I did have somewhat of an opportunity to get a Forge Systems educator housed here, and that person was, I'll say stolen, but they ended up taking another position in Extension in Arkansas, so we lost them. We are upping our health and nutrition programming. It seems here there's quite a demand in the county, so that's something that is a good thing. We are going to increase classes, for instance, at Alive. So that's something that's new. 4-H, we've had our 4-H coordinator coming, it'll be a year in July, and she has settled in, Zay, she goes by Zay, Zaire, and doing well and learning more and more. Spent all day yesterday with Zay, so that's a good thing. Wanted to point that out. As far as new and emerging issues, this is something that you all may be being asked about with, the highly contagious flu, in that, not only in Montcalm County with the cattle, but in Ionia with the bird flocks, and that's something that's obviously been on the news. But one of our educators, Katie Okert, who is actually in the Ionia office, is putting on a biosecurity seminar for folks who have backyard flocks, but it's close enough to around here. You might get some questions about, people get nervous about that with their backyard flocks and what can they do. But this is April 24th. But send them my way if they've got questions, because I think that's important. So it's important to examine biosecurity on the farm, especially small flocks. It's especially important in Ionia County with as many egg layers as are housed there with Herbrooks. But that's something that fear levels get up, but it's something that's been dealt with numerous years. Usually there's not cancellations or anything like that with fair. There has been in the past, but things are looking okay as far as that goes, and the cattle seem to be getting through that as much as possible. But as far as on our end of things, it's just education. So our educators have done a number of articles on the subject. We're putting together this program just to educate the public, and then, of course, answered some press questions. So we've done that. But with that said, we should be getting a new community nutrition instructor in here. I've got to get the supervisor hired first because we lost our supervising educator. And so as soon as I get the supervising educator hired, then we're going to get another nutrition instructor housed locally. And then, of course, on my wish list is another ag educator as Roger eases out. So with that, questions about anything? Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming today.
No, I'm just kicking down. I got to put my glasses on so I can see far now.
Seems a lot of changing of the guard lately.
No, there is, and that's how it was, and we knew that, especially with our ag educators. We had a lot of folks that were 25 to 35 years into extension, and then the number of educators that were 1 to 5 years was our highest amount of employees at our last main conference that we had. And so it takes some time. So we've been mentoring and bringing in, and there's some turnover. But Corey is, and I got to remember Corey's last name, but Corey's done a number of things here already in the county, who is taking over for, or taking Roger's main business over as far as his clients. But she's housed actually over in Mason.
I had breakfast with Roger a couple weeks ago, and
Okay.
yeah, he said he's not ready to hang it all up, but
Not yet.
I appreciate all the work he's done. I appreciate the work that you're doing. You're serving our district well, and so thank you.
Yes, Brian.
I'll bring up Roger as well. I've known him for decades. Good man. He will be missed. I hope you're going to throw him a great party.
Well, we've already done that as much as he'll allow us to do. I'll just say that.
All right.
We had a great time, though.
I guess I have one comment. You tell Roger he's not old enough. I said so because I had him in 4-H.
I am going to pass that on. Thank you very much for that. That'll I'm going to give him a hard
Okay.
time. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Construction code?
Morning, everybody. The online permitting with BSNA has a couple of flaws that we're working on. We actually have someone from BSNA coming in on the 19th of this month to try and help us work through some of them. But overall, it's working well. We've just got a couple of small issues that we need to get taken care of. the master plan update, the 63-day review period is ended. The planning commission has a meeting on the 23rd at 6 PM. We've met with Eaton and Carmel Township. We had a meeting with both townships, the city of Charlotte, the health department to discuss the property on 69 in Cochrane and those two townships that they want to put in the master plan as industrial instead of commercial or general use. So that will be the topic of discussion on the 23rd. And then obviously whatever the planning commission decides, we'll be bringing back to you guys to review. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot. We're moving along. Permitting is picking up a little bit from where it was, not as much as I would like, but it's about the same pace it was last year at this time, I guess. So if you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just a couple of questions. First of all, the issues that you mentioned with BSNA, are they client-facing or are they internal issues?
Some of them are internal, and we do have a couple of client-facing.
Okay. Well, one of the reasons I ask is because I was going to ask that Logan help us to share this with our constituents and
As far as the issues we're having?
yeah, that's what I was hoping. Logan, you can do that, right? No. Once I saw that it was up and running,
Yeah.
I was hopeful that we could start sharing that with our contractors and more people so they could take advantage of it.
Yes.
But I don't want to do that until at least the customer side of it is correct, so.
And really, and Brandy can correct me if I'm wrong, but really there's one small issue with the customer side of it, correct? The main issue. He's looking at me like I'm an idiot. Yeah, most of it's on our end. I will say that.
Well, I guess, and maybe it's more of a question for how maybe we've done something, I haven't seen it yet, but something that we're putting on our social media that commissioners can share, that kind of thing, when you're ready.
Yeah.
I assume that Logan will be all over that, but,
He will, and we've pushed it out to all of our contractors so that.
all the ones that are typically getting permits
Yes.
from you, so.
So they all know. Like I said, I guess at this point, to push it out to the public heavy, I guess I'd like to wait until we get
Sure.
these few issues taken care of.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not, in a lot of things, there's, slow rollouts, you have to work out the kinks, so
Right.
I understand that, so.
We thought there was gonna be a few less kinks, but
That's always how.
you know how that goes.
I do know how that goes. And then the other question I had was, I can't remember if I talked with Claudine or if I talked with Brandy about this, but the action that the Planning Commission had taken on dealing with marijuana in the county, I thought that I was going to be getting something sent to me, or we were going to get something sent to us, but I couldn't find it in my emails. Claudine's reaching for the mic, so hopefully she knows.
Yeah, I had gave you something when you stopped in my office like a couple days after that.
It was.
Certainly, we can email that to you.
Yeah, okay. That, now it rings a bell. All right.
Brandy can absolutely email that to you, but I gave you a.
Well, I think we should just, at least the committee maybe should get an email with a link to that, just so that we can all see that. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Claudine. I knew I saw it somehow, but, all right. Thanks, Chris, that's all.
Ryan, you had a,
Yeah, Chris, I'd like to voice my opinion again on that property at 69 in Cochrane. I think at this point, if the city of Charlotte will not commit to water and sewer, there's no point moving forward and changing the zoning on that. I don't see any developer wanting to put in their own septic and well out there. And I don't think the city's got the capacity or the money to bring it down. So I would like to at least table that or postpone it or whatever you want to do till somebody comes up with a plan for water and septic.
Well, and I don't disagree with you, Brian, but just keep in mind, this is for the future land use map. We're not changing the zoning from what it is, because today it's zoned limited ag.
Okay.
And right now it's future land use for general business, so, which would need water and sewer from the city
Right.
too, if they decided to rezone it that way. But yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
I don't know exactly where the city of Charlotte is with that.
Well, I can't imagine with the commitments they've got to Eaton Township, Carmel Township, and now that new can plant opening up with who knows how many employees, that their septic system is up to any more I can't believe they've got more capacity hidden somewhere.
I can't answer that, but I don't disagree with you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, you guys.
We have a finance report.
That's included in your packet if anybody has any questions on it.
Okay. ZIA update.
Good morning. Just some updates about our county programs and events and an update about the MMP. So we've been reviewing our budget for the next fiscal year, and we do have some price increases, especially for household hazardous waste. And so we're working on, with Melissa, amending the budget, and we do have the funds to cover any price increases, so we're in good shape. We do have our Eagle grant reporting. We have 3 grants with Eagle. We have the Scrap Tire Grant, which is going to be running during our events in June and August. And then we have our Rural Electronics Grant, recycling grant that we are going to be reporting on. We're still waiting on information from Delta Township, one of our grant partners. And our infrastructure grant with Eagle, the recycling trailer, it's currently being painted and being designed with the new Eaton County seal and recycling information, and it will be operational later this year. In terms of our county events, our county projects or programs, we do have some updated numbers from what's in the notes. For our first collection event, we have 237. Our second one in June have 125, and our last one is 33. One of our goals as a department, in order to maximize the efficiency of the resources that we're putting into these events, we're setting the goal of about 500 participants, and at the low end, about 300, at the high end, about 500. So we're currently working with our communications director, Logan Bailey, to set up strategies for Facebook marketing and print marketing for our events to try to reach that 500 number. As far as local projects, our swag reporting is underway. And we're currently soliciting and receiving reports from our organizations and municipalities. And finally, we have the materials management plan updates. There is a resolution in there asking for the Eaton County Board of Commissioners to accept the county approval agency designation. And as the county approval agency, Eaton County Board of Commissioners will be the authority and the approval body for the MMP as it gets implemented in the coming years. So, and besides the resolution, which I'll talk about in more detail, Resource Recovery is continuing the process of gathering information, gathering data, and meeting with future Materials Management Plan Committee members, potential members, including we've been meeting with adjacent counties, discussing with them, and we've also recently met with Granger and had really good discussions with Granger, who will be a major player in this process. And yesterday, we had a meeting with Hammond Farms. And one of the focuses of this new materials management plan is to focus on organic, how we're going to move organics throughout the county and keep them out of the landfill. And we believe Hammond Farms will be essential for the MMP process, and we'll be looking at soliciting them to be on our materials management planning committee. And as far as the resolution's concerned, the first half is the narrative, so what Eagle is proposing and or requiring
And it's just a description of the MMP process, the updates, and some of the deadlines. And now therefore it be resolved, is just asking for the Eaton County Board of Commissioners to authorize themselves as the county approval agency. And once the county approval agency is official in the meeting minutes, nothing needs to be sent to Eagle currently. All that needs to be sent in the notice of intent will be the county approval agency. And so this resolution's just, again, the Board of Commissioners accepting that responsibility and authority.
I would move the resolution of intent to prepare a materials management plan for Eaton County.
Support.
Sorry, I had time, that's a lot of M's in there to get that out, so.
Hard for me to say support.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is that all of your report?
Yep, and that's all of it. So,
Okay,
yep,
thank you.
yep, thank you.
Probably conservation.
There's no finance report?
Yeah, there's just a regular update finance report.
Okay. Parks is up next.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I'd like to start off by discussing the Lincoln Brick House. I have an update for that. Before we can do anything as far as moving, demo, anything, we're currently having it tested for asbestos. That has taken place, and the technician that did do that work is fairly confident that that will come back positive. So we have had quotes as well submitted for demo or removal of that building. And they range from 12 to 40,000. And the reason for that difference is the 12,000 is pretty much just dismantling the house itself and then backfilling in the foundation. The 40,000 is actually removing the foundation and then compacting that site. So that would be needed if we wanted to construct any type of facility or building there in the future. I don't foresee anything like that. The biggest thing I could see going there would be possibly a bathroom or parking lot. But that's the reason for the differences in the quotes on the prices there. Any questions on the Lincoln Brick House?
Yes, Brian?
What is wrong with the house? Is it condemned?
It's not condemned, but because of the requirements of the Michigan DNR Land Trust Fund grant, we can't use that house for anything unless it's open to the public. And unfortunately, because of the age of the house, the design of the house, it's not a universal design by any means. And as far as use for the public, you're talking about a one-bathroom facility in there. Again, that's not ADA compliant, universal design or anything like that. So essentially, the house could be open for the public for a bathroom, but it's just not practical to use that house for that kind of a facility.
And how large a lot is that?
I couldn't tell you the size of the lot, but it's a decent size. I'd say it's close to, I'm just guessing, but I'm going to say it's probably between half an acre, no more than 3/4 of an acre. And again, I'm completely guessing on that.
That property borders the city of Grand Ledge to the south and to the west, correct?
Yes, so that property, it's a triangle shape, and it does give access to the river. It does not give a continuous access to Lincoln Brick Park itself. There's a small portion of city-owned property that is in between our property on the Lincoln Brick House and then the Lincoln Brick Park.
Would the DNR allow us to sell that plot and then we purchase the one behind it for access to the river?
I would say no, I could check into that, but I do know any land properties that you're acquired through a DNR trust fund grant, I think it's impossible to actually sell.
I just don't think it's a good idea, Travis, for us to spend $40,000 on demolishing a building that really doesn't need to be demolished. I'd like to explore some other options.
Yeah, so I have
happened?
spoken with a representative from the DNR trust fund grant. And again, we can't open that house, we can't use it for anything unless we open up to the public. We cannot sell that house. We can move that house to another location if we could use it. But when they were doing the asbestos testing, they were pulling back some of the drywall and some other things to get that testing material. And it did come to our attention then that that house was not all built at the same time. So if you do try to move that house, there's most likely going to be portions that will not go with it. And then as far as the transferring of that house to another location, myself and the park supervisor, we don't believe that it would structurally survive. So you are taking, I think, quite a bit of a gamble trying to move that to another
Well, I
location.
understand that. I'm just thinking that maybe we should approach the city of Grand Ledge and see if we can do a parcel swap. Let them have that house parcel and we take that one with an easement
I can check,
to the river so we can put whatever we're gonna put in back there, rather than spending $40,000 to create a vacant lot.
I can check with the rep and see if that's something that can be done. I don't know the regulations, rules on that.
Okay, because given the fact that this is millage money we're talking about, I think it's not gonna look good in the public eye that we spend 40 grand.
Right.
Something like that, so, all right, thank you for looking into that.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe,
Thank you. The 12,000 to 40,000, that includes asbestos, that's enough to take care of the asbestos problem?
No, unfortunately, that quote right there is just for the demo of the house. The asbestos testing, that was an additional $750. And then the price to remove that asbestos, we have not gotten yet because we're still waiting on the lab results. Everything that all my research indicates it's a certain dollar amount per square foot. So my estimates are coming back between $10,000 and $20,000 to have that abatement done on that house.
When you said 12,000 to 40,000, it tear it down, and it just seemed to me that that was cheap. If
Right.
you have an asbestos problem. I remember when I first came on the board, there was a push to get out of parks. There were a number of commissioners who thought we shouldn't be in the parks business. And one of the hangups to getting out of parks was Lincoln Brick, because my understanding from back then, and that was quite a while ago, but is that we can't get rid of that property. We
No.
couldn't sell it, we couldn't trade it, we couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Because we got it through those grant funds.
Correct.
And so that, at the end of the day, ended the discussion about getting out of parks. So I don't think you could do a swap, Brian. I don't think you can do any of those things.
I understand that, but we did use it as an income property for how many decades? I mean, it was rented up till what, last fall?
Yes.
So it's not like we don't have precedent as it being a usable house. So I think it would be worth checking into. I know the DNR's got
The house might be usable, you were talking about a land swap
Well,
of some sort, and I
parcel
just
for
don't.
parcel.
Yeah,
I don't know why the
think so.
DNR would be opposed to that, but I think it's worth looking into.
Yeah, no, my recollection from the discussions at the time is that we're stuck with that property.
All right.
yes, Terrence.
What about, Travis, what about the idea of just giving the house away? I don't know, maybe the interest isn't there anymore, but if somebody was interested in moving, I know some people approached us initially about buying the house and moving it. If they wanted to do that, if we wanted to just give them the house and let them move that, I assume that wouldn't violate the DNR trust fund,
Correct. And that was one specific question I asked, and as long as we do not sell it.
as long as there's no consideration, then you're able to do that. Have we marketed that way at all? Have we reached out to those folks to see if anybody is, I know, and I get it, everybody's willing to do it until they find out how much it costs and how big of a pain in the butt it is, but,
Right.
but to Brian's point, I mean, yeah, I would prefer not, now we can't leave the building. It's not responsible government to leave a vacant building. That, to me, we can't do that. We've got to get rid of it one way or another.
Right.
So if we can't do anything like give it away to somebody and have them move it, then I don't think we have a choice other than to demolish it. Unless, again, if you find out that, well, if there's asbestos in there, you got to deal with it anyways. But, well, I was going to say, if you could pay the same amount of money to make it a usable property, which we've talked about the idea of trying to maybe have bathrooms or, some kind of a public facility there, but that's a little difficult to have. So I think I think unless you can find somebody that's willing to just take the house and move it on their own, I think I don't think we have a choice. I mean, as far as the precedent goes of us renting it, I mean, we were okay with renting it at first, I believe, because it was a county employee, it was a park employee that was renting it, if I
Yes,
recall.
the intent of it was for the person to be a caretaker, so that was
Right.
an allowable use.
Right.
And then when that changed, we were no longer able to do that.
Right, which is why we ended up figuring out we had to end that.
Correct.
That agreement with the person that was renting it. So we just didn't have a choice in it. So we can't do anything else. So I guess I'll shut up and let you answer. Have you explored that any further?
I have not. First, we wanted to get quotes on demo and everything, and then, once I had all that information, bring it to possibly the Parks Focus Group or this group, and determine a course of action from there. I agree with you. If, it sounds like we are able to give it away, if there is interest in it, then I think that discussion should definitely take place. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the only real good way to do it would be to have some sort of a public, I wouldn't call it an auction, but offering to some extent.
I
and-
think you would have to do some type of random lottery, have people submit who would
Right,
be
if they're
in it.
interested, and then do it, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, and it's gotta have a time certain date on it, otherwise people will say, oh, I'm interested, but yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I think, yeah, and I think, that, as long as we explore that option, if we could do that, great. If not, I mean, now, back to the asbestos, I'm sorry, I might have missed something, but we don't know that there's an asbestos problem, it's being tested, or are we pretty sure there is?
So we have had it tested. We have not gotten the results back from that, but the technician is fairly confident that will come back positive.
Based on what they saw?
Yes.
Sure.
Yep,
Okay.
yep,
Okay. Okay, thank you.
yep.
Any other questions, discussion?
On to tornado shelters. So this has been a discussion that's come up recently in some of the meetings. So myself and the park supervisor has looked into what shelters, buildings we have out at Lincoln Brick specifically. And we do not have any shelters that would be adequate for a tornado shelter. Our vault toilet, absolutely not. The Lincoln Brick Interpretive Center, that's kind of a pole barn steel construction. So that would not be, the bathrooms in that building would not double as a tornado shelter as well. So then we started looking into some of these prefabbed emergency shelters, very popular with FEMA and some other organizations. And they can get quite expensive. Now, depending on the size that you go for, which we would need a decent size if we were going to construct an emergency shelter, because we can have up to 40 students, children out there at one time, especially with ABNL, some of the other programs. So currently, we do not have anything out there. We don't have anything at any of our parks. I put some calls into some other parks, and this, unfortunately, this is quite common in parks. There's not a lot of parks offer an emergency shelter situation. In the parks that do have this are typically, I would say, kind of a community park setting, so inside a city limits, that might have program sports events quite frequently. They will have something that will double as a emergency shelter, and most of the time it is a outdoor bathroom facility or something like that. So, moving forward, as I put in my report here, I think it's something we should absolutely take into consideration when we're building new facilities at the parks. We should definitely make sure that we have some type of building that also is rated for tornadoes and severe storms. But currently, we do not have anything.
Yes, Terrence?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Travis, thank you for looking into this. I think it's worth a review. I guess the question I would have is, do you feel confident, do we have a good evacuation plan at all of our parks? Have we ever done kind of the overview to look and see, okay, we may not have a shelter here, but every park within a certain distance has somewhere to go, and if we just help direct the people in our facilities, because there's two ways you can look at it, right? We can provide the facility, or we can provide them access to get to a facility.
Yeah.
Obviously, the most ideal way is to have a facility on site, but with the cost of it, it's just, it's unless, like you said, we're looking at it as part of other projects. It doesn't
Right,
really
right.
make a bunch of sense in my mind to just spend that money to put something out there. But my question would just be to make sure that we have some sort of a plan in place for each park, that it's clearly signed, how to evacuate. I mean, in this day and age, and when I say signed, a lot of times we're talking about not necessarily, it may not even be directions. It might be a QR code that we say, scan this with your phone for emergency evacuation notice or something, or map or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it could, it could also not be, permanent structures, but back when I was a kid, I was told to jump in the ditch if a tornado came. So I mean, do we have, maybe we have areas, natural areas that we can have as being, not shelters, but safer areas for people to go if there is a tornado?
We do not have any signage for that, and I think that possibly could be a good idea. I definitely would want to check with MMRMA before I would put any signage like that up. I think as long as we're not promising any type of shelter and kind of giving some informational stuff to the people, to the public, that I don't think MMRMA would have any problems with that. So let me reach out to them, and if they're okay with it, then yeah, we can absolutely get some signage up. And possibly discussing some of the things like you said, getting in a ditch or, something along the lines of that. But yeah, and as far as an emergency evacuation plan, we have it with the staff, but we don't have it with park users. Now, when they do have programs like ABNL currently going on at Lincoln Brick, that is discussed in case of emergency. We're going to report here. So that is done with our programs. But again, you can only do so much because that building, it'll help you from severe thunderstorms and everything, but if a F4, F5 comes through, that building's gone, so.
Right.
And we do rely heavily on early warning weather systems, which are getting better and better. And that's typically what the National Park Service uses as well. So that's kind of our fallback right now, is the emergency early warnings alert centers.
Well, and that was going to be my other suggestion as part of your review of any emergency or evacuation plans, would be to make sure that we have coverage at all of our facilities with the sirens, the local sirens. I know at one point we talked about, and I don't know if we ever did or not, putting one out at Crandall.
There's one there.
Okay, there was one. Okay, so, but I think some of the others, like the Lincoln Brick and Fitzgerald and Grand Ledge would be covered by the Grand Ledge sirens and the Oneida sirens, I'm sure. I'm not sure about our other parks, but that might be something we may want to look into, because that might be something that we may want to invest in.
Absolutely.
Wait a minute, Joe, you had a question. It was Joe first, then you, Brian.
Thank you. You said that the buildings that FEMA likes are expensive. How expensive are we talking about?
They typically start around 100, but a lot of the ones that they use are up to 150, 200,000. And the reason for that is their emergency shelters actually have full HVAC systems, electrical. So they're pretty cozy. You could stay in one of those for an extended period of time.
Well, I do think, and I'm somewhat concerned with the idea that we're going to put signage up at this point, because it doesn't sound like we have any kind of real plan as to where anybody could go. So, I do think that the last time I was out at Lincoln Brick, it's pretty much kind of out there. It would be, unless you're planning on busing 40 children someplace really fast, I don't know where they would, where you would direct them. Seems to me that we ought to look into the fact, at least with some of our, like Lincoln Brick as an example, putting something out there where the children could be taken and they would be safe. And I don't think signage would suffice at this point in time. As for jumping into the ditch, I recall that when I was in grade school, a very, very long time ago, we were all told that in the event of a nuclear attack, we were to get under our desks, and I frankly don't think that would have helped a whole lot. So I'm not sure that the ditch is something you want to advise people to do in this day and age.
In the price for that shelter, that was FEMA only. If I had a little bit more time, I would have looked into alternatives for that. So we quite possibly could get away with something that's cheaper than that. I just have not found something as of yet.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the Taj Mahal of all buildings.
Right.
But if you tell me that you have programs where there are 40 children out there at any one given time, frankly, all the early warning systems, there's always that one time where it didn't work out the way it was supposed to, and then people get hurt.
Right.
So I think we should take that into consideration. Thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, looking at the price, I understand that those purchase shelters could be kind of pricey. I think we should take a serious look at the building that we have that's existing and see, can we add on to, I think we're far enough from the boundary line in the north and the west that we could add on a sub-base, or basement level that would allow us to have that shelter. We would have electricity there, we would have HVAC there existing, and just incorporate it into that building, maybe add some more space for, enlarge the museum, I don't know, but I think it would be good, given the fact, and I go back to this millage, the taxpayers are paying for these things, these upgrades. I think one that indicates we're concerned with their safety would be a wise choice of our expenditures.
I agree.
So I think we should take a serious look at that. I'm pretty sure that Chris and Brandy and Claudine could give you guidance in adding on to that building. And if everything was below ground, certainly you didn't have to worry about being a pole barn structure up above.
Right.
Any other questions?
One more thing I definitely want to speak to this group about is, so I have gotten quotes for the paving of the Thornapple Trail. As you can see, it's a pretty large quote, and it did range between $108,000 and $275,000. Now, the difference there is the $275,000, that company feels like they did add in quite a bit of material for ballast. We're not sure if we need that. A core sample would have to be done before that, so we could potentially go with the $108,000. But this is that section that we've been discussing that's currently not paved from Curtis Road to Mason Road. So this dollar amount would address that situation there. This dollar amount is also paving the remaining portion of our trail that's not paved. So only a small section of our trail is actually paved. This would pave the rest of that trail. So this dollar amount would have the whole Thornapple Trail would be paved, and then that additional distance from Mason to Curtis Road would be paved as well. And to give you an idea, that portion from Mason to Curtis is roughly about 40% of these total quotes. So if you did not go forward with that particular project, you can take off 40% of that price to do the rest of our trail itself. And if anybody is not familiar with this, this would, Berry County is in the process of creating a pathway that will end at Curtis Road. And this portion of our trail would pick up the end of their trail and beginning of our trail at Curtis Road. And that would run all the way to, it runs right to the school there. I believe it's Maple Valley School.
Where does it?
Yes, Terrence?
Where does it? Where does the Berry County Trail end?
So Berry County Trail, and I would have put this on here, but my GIS ended. So Berry County Trail ends right at Curtis Road on the county line there.
Right, but where does it go? I'm saying, where does it go? That's where where does it start then, I guess?
Oh, I'm not sure of the start location. I believe it's a countywide trail. I'm not sure of their actual start location, though.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious because when you talk about connecting a trail like that,
Right.
you know, to me, you have to look at where it starts and where it ends because that's an important piece of it. And if it does connect you to a trail that runs the entire width of the Berry County, that's
Yeah.
a pretty significant trail and it
Yeah.
would be a good connection.
Yeah, and I do have a meeting with them tomorrow, so I can get that information. I apologize for not knowing that. And again, the big want for this was brought to our attention because it is apparently a heavily trafficked school route for the kids.
Sure, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm familiar, that's where I went to school at, so I'm very familiar with in fact, I lived not too far behind the trail, so.
Oh, interesting.
But, okay. So that section that you talked about, though, is the only section that's not currently paved? The rest of our trail is paved? Is that what you're saying?
That section, and then we have a small section that we currently own that's not paved.
Okay,
Yep, so this would pave the whole trail from what we own all the way through to Curtis Road.
okay. And that's all in Eaton County?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Brian?
Yeah, Terrence, I don't know where the trail ends. I know it goes into Nashville. I don't know how far west of it there it goes, but one of my concerns is the easements that we have with the neighbors and what kind of equipment crosses that trail?
So I guess it depends on the resident. I mean, most of the time, it's probably your typical vehicle, but it's very possible that any one of those houses could have, large equipment go over it. I mean, we can't prevent that from happening.
So I was just wondering if a different surface might be better suited for that, something that's more easily and cheaply repaired, like crushed asphalt.
So, I'm sorry, I did say paved. This is asphalt, so it's not concrete. And typically, when you do put in these trails, you do want to make sure they're rated to withstand to a fire truck. That's kind of the benchmark that when you're putting in these pathways, that's kind of the benchmark you want to go for. Because obviously you want to be able to, you want it to be able to handle emergency vehicles. And there's nothing heavier than a fire truck when it comes to the EMS services. So usually, yes, we will have this rated to withstand the weight of a fire truck.
Okay, I was thinking more about future repairs in the fire truck, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd hate to see somebody go across there with some kind of ag equipment and accidentally tear it up.
Yeah, and a loaded fire truck that's full of water is probably most likely going to be heavier than
Oh, yeah.
a lot of your ag equipment, yeah.
All right, thank you, Travis.
Yep.
I have, excuse me, I have yes, Terrence?
Oh, go ahead, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, well, I did just look up because it's I believe it's referred to as the Paul Henry Trail.
Yes.
I was looking at that and there's parts of it that are complete and there's parts of it that aren't complete yet.
Yes.
But the trail, when completed, is planned to run all the way to Grand Rapids. So it's a 42-mile trail that does run all through Berry County. Now, as I said, there are still sections that are not completed yet or are not part of the trail.
Right.
But so just so that you have that information, I think it would be great to be able to have a trail that runs from Grand Rapids to Eaton County.
Yes.
Is there, Travis, because these are trails, I know that there's, has been a lot of interest in trails in the area. Are there grant dollars that we could leverage some of our millage money to try to apply for a grant to help pay for the paving of these trails?
So we could on sections. Unfortunately, a portion of the section from Mason to Curtis Road, we lease that from resident Hopkins, I believe is their last name. So we wouldn't be able to get any type of grant for that because we don't own the property.
Okay.
Or at least state grants. There might be other grants through trail associations or something like that I could look into. So I guess the answer would be possibly. I could look into seeing what grants we would qualify for, but we could possibly get grant dollars to do some or maybe all of that.
Do we know when or if the last time was that we spoke to the Hopkins family to see if they had any interest in providing us with the easement for the trail or a sale or however it would have to be?
Yes, I spoke with her 2 or 3 weeks ago, just kind of gave her, an idea of what we were planning on possibly doing. They have no issues with it whatsoever. They really enjoy the trail themselves, so, no issues from the landowner.
But I mean, have you talked to them about actually selling it so that we could apply for the grant to make it a better trail, or?
I have not, but I can absolutely get that conversation going and see if that's something that they'd be willing or open.
Well, yeah, I mean, because especially if they're interested in seeing us do this with the trail, then, and if they think that it would be a good way for us to be able to pay for it.
Yeah.
Because if we owned it, then we could apply for those grant dollars, and that would make it more likely to happen. So it would be a good time to have the conversation if it hasn't been had recently, and just see what they have to say.
Yes.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay. Does that complete your report?
Yeah, just a couple quick updates. Submitted the annual budget. Ethan Jacobs is the new parks naturalist. He's jumped right into it. His first day, he had to work with ABNL. I shouldn't say he had to. He was lucky enough, fortunate enough to be able to jump right in and work with ABNL. I've heard nothing but great things from the teachers that he's been working with. He's looking at creating quite a few new partnerships with different societies and groups around the area. So just everything's going very well on that. And yeah, we've got all our equipment ready. We'll be opening up facilities here in the next couple weeks. Just was kind of waiting for the last bit of weather to give us an indication if we were good to go on that. But yeah, lots going on, and it's pretty exciting, actually, so yeah.
Yes, Brian?
Hey, I was at the Fox Park here a few nights ago, just cruising around. How much storm debris do we still have left in our parks, and what are we going to do about all that stuff?
As far as the open spaces, I think most of, if not all, the storm debris is cleaned up. We do have some obviously down in like the forest and whatnot. Do you have a particular spot that you're?
Well, there's trees on both sides of the park that were down in the woods, and I didn't know if they were a hazard or considered a hazard, or if that was even our property.
I think the ones you're speaking of are probably on the boundaries.
Okay.
And I believe that's why they're there, but I'll double check on that. But I think I know what ones you're talking about, Brian. And I believe it was a property situation, but I'll double check on that.
Given the fact that kids don't care about boundaries, I didn't want any of them going out there climbing on dead trees and getting hurt.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're moving on to miscellaneous.
Yes, under miscellaneous, which wasn't initially in your packet, but was passed out to you, is a request from the Conservation District, who is here to speak to it. So there is a letter and also a resolution they would like consideration for.
Well, hello. My name is Pat Terrell, and I'm on the board of the Eaton County Conservation District. And I've been a farmer. I joined the Centennial Farm south of Charlotte here in 1978. And I'm here to speak in favor of the proposal that you were given concerning the Michigan Ag Environmental Assurance Program. It's referred to as MEAP. The proposed state budget is hoping, in the proposed budget, to remove the MEAP program location from county proximity into the state, into a state office included into MDARD. And I just want to speak to that as a local farmer. I think the MEAP program has been very valuable. Our farm was verified as a environmentally assured farm in 2012, and then re-verified in 2022. So we've been with the program for a long time. I think it was a very educational process for us to go through on our farm. What happens, I don't want to go into too much detail. I guess I would like to leave it open for questions. But local technicians from the county office will visit farms on a volunteer basis and assess your farm as far as its environmental impact and give suggestions on changes that you might make on your farm. It includes things like waterways, whether or not livestock's entering a waterway, pesticide storage, fuel storage, composting. Those kind of things are discussed with the farm owner by these local technicians. And then once the farm meets the requirements for a verification, then a state officer comes out and checks it all over and verifies that it's up to the standards for this certificate. So that's the process that it goes through right now, and they're talking about removing that local authority to the state. And I just think it would be a real major problem with some of the farm owners that they would be having a state official come out and look at their farm, because that is before the process has gone through. There's no local discussion before a state person might come out there. And I assume the state person would have the authority to give violations and cause problems to local farmers before they even know that they are doing something that's not environmentally suitable. So have you got any questions? The resolution is just for the county commissioners to give their input to the state on this budget proposal.
Yes, Terrence.
I would move the resolution.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Jim?
I just want to make a comment. Where this is bigger than me, because if you read this letter from the Conservation District, it cuts their budget by 40%. Now, I've had conversations with Rachel, and she is doing an outstanding job. And she's taking a big cut in pay just to work there, and because it's her love, she loves doing it. But you can only do a job so much with not getting, paid substantially for that job. But I suspect that the office would probably diminish over time just because the funds are being cut. So even though this discussion is about MEEP, it's bigger than that. I was invited to be on a Zoom with State Representative Angela Whitwer, and I'm thankful to tell you that Representative Whitwer is in favor of keeping this to the local or the conservation districts. So we also had a Zoom call with Senator Anthony's office. Not sure where they stand yet. I don't think if they've given you any feedback yet. So you got the House, the Senate, and the governor. So we have one. We need another leg of that stool to be in favor. So hopefully this does not go through because it would be devastating to the local conservation districts. So.
Yes, Brian, and Joe.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wholeheartedly support this resolution. I am concerned that the state of Michigan wants to take away a lot of our control, local control in many areas. And it astounds me that people that claim to be environmentalists would want to take away local control of conservation areas at the same time destroying farmland. It just astounds me that you have these people talking out both sides of their mouth, and I think it's time for us to send a message to the state of Michigan and say, you don't have that authority. That's our control, and we need to maintain that. So yes, I do support this resolution.
Thank you.
Joe?
Thank you. I looked at this resolution, and I guess I have certain concerns. If I recall when you last reported to us, I think you indicated that your office was down to pretty much you and maybe a part-time person or something like that. And so to me, I understand that this is the moment. I mean, you're talking about a significant cut evidently. Jim says 40%. But it just seems to me to be too little. There seems to me that the fight should be about expanding the resources that you have, because part of it, at least the way I view this particular program, is that somebody has to be out there talking to the local farmers to even make them aware of it and essentially encourage them to participate. And you're not going to have that with someone coming from the state, but you're probably also not going to have very much of that. There's only so much you can do in a day if you're the only full-time person working out there. I mean, you're going to have to allocate your time. So I don't have any problem with this resolution. I support it, but I really think this is too little. And if you're going to go to the state and say, these are very important, and certainly I've waxed uneloquent enough over the years about climate change. It seems to me that this program is a small part in trying to address the changes that we need to make in the way we live because of climate change. That this argument needs to be expanded, that if you want local control, which I don't have any problem with as well, then you need more resources available so that it's not just Rachel out there by herself. And when she can do it, she does it, and when she can't, she's doing something else. So I think when you talk to Senator Anthony the next time, or you talk to Representative Whitwer, or whomever you talk to going forward, I think the real push needs to be that not only does the budget need to be restored to what it was, but it actually needs to be increased so that there actually are people in the local communities on the ground doing this work.
Brian?
Just to let Joe know, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but the Conservation District doesn't work alone. We heard from the MSU Extension, and guys like Roger Betts are also educating people on this and telling them what their options are, what the regulations are. And so it's not like they're acting on their own, but I agree, they need more help, not less. So they should be increasing that budget and not reducing it.
Okay, Jim?
Well, to that point, Commissioner Brailer, while we were on those Zoom calls with Senator Anthony and State Representative Angela Whitwer, that very topic came up. When compared to the amount of money that our surrounding neighbors, states, give to their local conservation districts, I don't remember the number, but it was vastly larger than what Michigan gives to their local conservation district. And it's unfortunate because our local conservation districts do a lot for our local farmers. But they're limited because Rachel's office is probably indicative of a lot of them across the state. So you are right, it's a bigger problem.
I was worried there for a minute. Anytime someone refers to me as Commissioner Brailer, I figure I've made some kind of faux pas, and but okay.
First of all, I just want to apologize for the way I look. We are packaging trees this week, so, but I wanted to respond. I'm not sure if you saw, but I think that there is another item in that resolution that says that funding should be increased as well. But check it, because I haven't looked at it in a while. And the answer is 13 million is what the Michigan Association of Conservation Districts is saying that we need to properly fund our conservation districts. And other districts other states like Minnesota and Wisconsin and Ohio are closer to that 15 to 18 million range.
Yes, Terrence?
Yeah, Rachel, it is 13 million, it is in the resolution, so that is in there, so that does, I think, help with Commissioner Brailer's concerns as well. The other thing is that it's not just I appreciate what they do for the Conservation District does for the farmers, but it's not just the farmers, it's the residents as well. We are the Great Lakes state. It's our water as well, extremely important. So the Conservation District does a lot of great things for all of us in this county, and I'm very happy to support this. And I was glad that Jim had the conversation with our state representative and senator. I spoke with Angela as well and was happy to hear that she was convinced that this would leave the House in this form. So I don't know if it's going to have the additional 13 million or the 13 million in funding, but at least keeping the MEP with the locals. So hopefully we can get through to the others and make sure that this happens. So thank you all for your work that you guys do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do I have a motion?
We do.
Yes. Just need a vote.
Okay. All righty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The resolution passes. Any other miscellaneous?
No, sir, or no, ma'am.
Okay. Limited public comments? Terrence, did you have him?
I did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Actually, you know what? No, I'll save it for next month. Never mind.
Okay. Then we're adjourned. Excuse me, limited public comment. I thought I said that. Okay. If there's no limited public comment, then we're adjourned.